Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Raju, Vice President at High Quality Organics, and we are the largest wholesale provider of organic food ingredients in North America. And this is the OG Spice Guy Show. Welcome to OG Spice Guy podcast episode 1. This is our pilot. It's been a long time coming. This was just an idea a couple of months ago. I thought it'd be fun. Everybody else is doing a podcast, so I said, F it, I want one too. Let's talk about spices. Let's talk about the food industry. I'm hoping to bring some knowledge, drop some truth bombs on all these TikTok videos that I watch from somebody who's really in the industry. This is my good friend Rob. I've known him for some time, and I remember when I first met him, he said, "Hey, I'm a executive producer and I do podcasts."
Yeah. And then I said, "You have a great space here.
Yeah.
I could make stuff here."
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking we'd be making spice podcasts.
Yeah. Neither did I.
But I sit here in this office with you daily. I listen to your Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Right? Because you run this business.
Yeah.
So people that are watching, you're pretty much running this business with your dad.
Yep.
And a few employees. How many employees do y'all have?
We have about 40, 45 employees.
Okay, serious.
So I'd constitute it. We're a mid-sized operation. So we're headquartered in Reno. Our manufacturing, warehousing, production, blending, packing, everything happens in Reno. My father and I live here in Los Angeles, and we kind of bounce back and forth.
The only thing that makes food taste good is
Spices. So that's what I always say. People say, why have a podcast about spices? Is it really that important? I challenge you to go for one day eating foods that are cooked without spices, and you're not going to be very happy.
But salt count as a spice?
Salt's not a spice. Salt's a mineral.
Okay, but it's probably in the conversation.
It is. It's certainly in the conversation. There are a lot of things that are in the conversation. People talk about garlic and onion as a spice. They're not spices. They're vegetables. But that's okay.
So you import spices.
Yeah. So our business, kind of in its most simplistic form, is we work with suppliers internationally in probably over 15 countries worldwide. And those suppliers are responsible for the growing, the harvesting, the collecting, and then the processing of those food ingredients. And then they ship them to us. So all of our material comes through the Port of Oakland in Northern California.
What are they shipping? Not onions, but they're shipping it.
Yeah, we call them cut sizes.
Okay.
So everything that High Quality Organics does is we are set up to feed the food manufacturing industry.
Got it.
So we sell a wide variety of food manufacturers. So we have a couple of different categories. So probably the simplest one would be what we call a bottler or a co-packer. So probably the best example everybody can relate to is McCormick. So this is somebody who takes the spices. So let's take black pepper, puts it in a bottle, and then, they're selling it, they're marketing it.
Yep.
We have customers that are in the meat manufacturing industry, whether it's seasonings that are going on to rubbed meats.
Yeah.
You go to the grocery store and you see stuff that has lemon pepper chicken already seasoned. All you have to do is go home, throw it on the grill. A very large segment of that category is sausages. So we supply a lot of seasoning into hot dog and sausage manufacturers. It's a very large growing segment of the organic industry is organic sausages, organic hot dogs.
So High Quality Organics, what does it mean? How'd you guys start?
Yeah, so HQO is actually the merging of two businesses. So my father has two partners, and their original company was called the Great Spice Company.
Okay.
So it was headquartered in San Diego area, late 90s, early 2000s, and they were focused on just organic spices. And so from the beginning, we have only done organics. And I can get into kind of the difference between organic and conventional a little bit later. But we only focused on organic spices. They were importing by the container load a handful of products. They had suppliers out of India and China, some in the Mediterranean. And they were selling to the early organic pioneers at the time. So that's going to be your Annie's, your Amy's, McCormick. So pretty simple business model. The business was growing and growing. Last economic recession hit 2007, 2008. They had an opportunity to acquire a business that was located in Reno. That business was called Organic Herb Trade. So this business was focused on herbs and tea inputs, botanicals, things like lavender and chamomile. So they saw it as a strategic acquisition. They merged the two. They formed High Quality Organics, and with that customer base and that supply chain, they were then not only known as the organic spice guys, but the organic food ingredients. So you now had this umbrella term. Because we used to say, if it's dried and organic, we have it. And if we don't have it, we'll find it.
And your dad has experience in all this.
Yeah. So my dad actually has a PhD from University of California, Berkeley. So he's a smart guy. And he never lets me live it down because I don't have a PhD. But my sister does, so that doesn't help me, at family dinners.
No.
But so my dad has a PhD in plant pathology and botany.
Awesome.
So he really understands literally how these plants are grown, are harvested, of how they mature, of how disease affects them. There's a big crisis that's going on in Nigeria right now with ginger. My dad can speak, for hours on what is this particular fungus, what's happening, and how can you eradicate it. So his early work at UC Berkeley was actually in the wine industry. So he studied diseases that were plaguing the grapes in the California wine industry. So he's published. You can look him up.
They're going to see him right here.
Yeah.
We're going to bring your dad on the show often.
Yes.
Where's your dad from? That's a good...
Yeah. So my father was born and raised on an organic farm in southern India. So his father was a farmer. His father before him was an organic farmer. So that's really where our passion for organics comes from is we really wanted to support the organic farmer, and thankfully we're able to kind of serve that mission with high quality organics. So came to this country on an academic scholarship, and started their life living the American dream. And he also went back to school and got his MBA. So he started on kind of the science side of the industry and then shifted over to the business side, which is where I think I got my business bug. Mm-hmm. Growing up in a typical Indian household, right, is you had a couple of options. You could become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or I chose dentist. So I went to UC Irvine for my first undergraduate degree, and then I went to University of Southern California, USC,
to be a dentist.
And that was my first path. Went through the program, and I was staring at kind of a long road to eventually owning my own dental practice.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was working part-time for HQO, doing little side projects remotely from Los Angeles. And when I graduated, my dad said, "Hey, the team really likes the work that you've done thus far, and if you want, you can come on full-time with us." And so,
big decision there.
Yeah. Much to my wife's dismay.
Yeah.
I decided, that multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans I just racked up.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go and sell spices.
How close were you?
I mean, I was pretty close. I was probably two years away.
Okay.
And
do you know stuff? Do you know teeth?
Yeah. I do.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
I went through the whole thing. I mean, I still have I have I'm licensed as a dental hygienist.
Oh, really?
I still have an active
clean my
license.
teeth?
I could clean them.
All right.
I could clean
need
them.
some clean teeth.
That's the first thing I notice when I meet people is their teeth.
Do you?
Yeah.
You have good teeth.
Thank you.
I'm hiding mine now. Right?
And that's when I tell people that's the first thing they're like, oh.
I know. I'm hiding my
okay.
teeth now.
Oh,
Like, this was not a good decision to be on TV. All right. So tell us the difference between organic spices and conventional spices, and just some of the things that you've told me on how theirs are processed versus organic and all that. Like, what's the difference?
Whenever I talk about organic versus conventional, I find it's easier to describe in what organic is not. So organics do not allow the use of artificial fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, chemicals. And so there are some that are allowed in organics. Organic does not mean you're completely void of these substances, chemicals, if you will. There's just certain limits that you have to stay within.
Okay.
And when we're talking about fertilizers, insecticides, herbicides, there's thousands of compounds that are out there floating around literally in the world. So the fact that these farmers can grow these crops and test clean really is a testament to the amount of dedication they have to the product. But anyway, getting back to it, so organics does not allow synthetic artificial chemicals. It also, a really important part of the food industry is what we call a kill step. So this means that you are sending the product through some sort of treatment that will kill pathogens. Now, pathogens are the things that make people sick. So when you say you get food poisoning, it's from a pathogen. Most likely it was E. coli or salmonella. These are the two big ones that we focus on in the food industry. And we're a dried facility. If you have a wet facility that involves, moisture or some sort of liquid, you look at other pathogens like listeria and things like that. But because we're dried, we'll keep the conversation to E. coli and salmonella. So kill step. So in the conventional food industry, the two kill steps that are tried and true that everybody uses are going to be ionizing radiation and ethylene oxide gas. So radiation and gas are the two things. They'll get a bunch of whatever the product is. They'll send it into the gas chamber. They'll gas it. These are nerve agents, and so this is they'll kill these pathogens. But there's residue that's left on the product. No amount of washing your apples, washing your produce is going to completely rid the product of these residues. This is one of the key points of organics and supporters of organic is they want clean food. So in the organic industry, what do we do for a kill step is High Quality Organics was the first organic spice company to go 100% ready to eat. So that means all of our products go through a 5-log validated kill step. So the only kill step that's allowable in organics is thermal heat. And the type of heat that we like to use is steam. So steam can kill these pathogens. Again, we're focused on E. coli and salmonella to a 5-log, which just means it's significant reduction in pathogens so that the product is safe, because you can't assume that the product is going to be cooked. So the example that we like to give is what happens if somebody takes a bottle of spice and decides to shake it on top of a salad and then just eat it from there. So I need to make sure that product is safe for the consumer, and of course for the brands that are trusting us with their materials.
What does conventional do?
Conventional is using either radiation or gas. So the downside of this is, or the concern I should say, is we don't have enough longitudinal studies to really understand, are these products, when you eat a lifetime of conventional foods, are there cancer concerns? Are there risks? I can say right now, especially here in California, that the EPA is moving towards banning ethylene oxide, because you're literally put the product in a chamber and you release ethylene oxide gas, and then that gas, when that chamber is done, gets released into the atmosphere.
Got it.
So there's a lot of concerns with the environment, with the ozone. And not only that, but what's happening downwind of these facilities. Whereas with organics, it's hot water, that can be brought up to a temperature. Oftentimes it's done under a vacuum, so it penetrates the product, and it renders it, safe.
Do you also sell to restaurants and directly to other people that need it?
A couple of other segments that we service into. So we talked about bottlers, or we talked about co-packers, we talked about the meat industry. We sell into the beverage industry. So whether somebody's making some sort of flavored drink, teas are the most common that we sell into the tea industry. Co-packers, so people who are putting product into a pouch. Probably the most classic example is you go on Amazon and you'll see, all these suppliers that are selling 1 pound packs of turmeric. We supply into them. In some cases, we pack the turmeric into those 1 pound pouches for them. And then we're selling to other businesses that are breaking down the product further, meaning physically putting it in smaller pack sizes. My pack size typically is 50 pounds. On something that's more dense, on the light and fluffy materials, about 25 pounds. So that's a lot. Right. That's a lot of spice for the average person. So we have businesses that we service that take our product and further break it down into smaller consumer size, whether it's, 1 pound being sold on Amazon or in bulk stores like Costco, or down to the 1 ounce tiny spice jars.
Where do you get your spices?
The vast majority of our products are coming from China. So the majority of our dehydrated vegetables come from China. So you're looking at garlic, onion, carrot, bell pepper, things like that, broccoli, cauliflower, sweet potato, pumpkin. The Chinese are fantastic at growing vegetables and then processing them. Our spices, our seeds are coming a lot from India. So you're looking at coriander seed, black pepper, mustard, turmeric, ginger. So we go heavily to China, to India. And then herbs are largely coming from the Mediterranean. So you're looking at Turkey and Egypt. Those are the 2 largest growing regions.
Got it. So you have people in these regions growing and processing them for you guys.
We partner with these farmers, with these suppliers, so they are growing. In some instances, we have exclusive agreements where they're only selling to us, growing and selling for us. In the majority of cases, they're selling to us and technically to our competitors, as well.
Sure.
But the majority of our products are coming from international, from overseas. We do procure a very small amount from North America. We'll get mustard from Canada. We'll get seeds, flax from Canada as well. Cardamom from Central America, Guatemala. We'll do some chilies out of New Mexico, some chilies out of Mexico. So some coming from North America, Central and South. But then the vast majority is coming from other countries.
Got it.
Another large part of our business is custom herb and spice blends. So we really focus on the savory category. We have an R&D chef. Her name is Dawn. She's fantastic. She's taught me everything that I know.
She needs to get in here as a guest and make us some food.
She'd be great.
Like anybody needs to make us some food and be a guest, but we're going to have guests on the show.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Yeah.
Anything more with food would be great.
Dawn is fantastic. She is a super taster. So her tongue, her palate is kind of specially, I'll say, evolved to pick up on very subtle flavor differences, and that enables her. She's also trained as a culinary chef, so she's got the expertise. She's got the nose. So we work with a large variety of customers. Take a barbecue restaurant, for example, and they'll say, hey, this is my special barbecue rub, and it's got 14 different ingredients, and I need it made in this exact, what most consumers would call a recipe, we call a formula. The difference between a recipe versus a recipe is it's finite. So you'd say 1 tablespoon of, black pepper, 3 tablespoons of cumin, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Well, that's great, but I need to be able to scale that. Right. So I go formula, everything's on a percentage. So 12% black pepper, 15% cumin, 80% salt.
Very cool.
So that allows me to scale it on a commercial level, which is another big part of our business is our blend house. So the majority of organic seasonings that are going into the market in a major way are coming from high quality organics.
We're also going to be talking about spices
Yeah.
and individual ones, because you could talk for half an hour on black pepper.
Sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
we'll kind of give them a taste, pardon the pun,
Yeah.
of it by explaining like black pepper right now. First of all, isn't the industry like low on black pepper?
Black pepper is actually a berry. It's a little tiny dried berry. And when it's on the plant, it grows on vines, and it's actually green. It's not black. It goes through a drying and an oxidation process. That's what turns it black. There's, you guys have probably heard, there's black pepper, there's white pepper, there's pink peppercorns, green peppercorns, all a little bit different, but berries nonetheless. And black pepper is actually pollinated by the rain. So the majority of products, right, are grown outside, and they're pollinated by pollinators. So you think about things like hummingbirds, and there's some crops that are self-pollinators as well. But black pepper is actually pollinated by the rain. So no rain, no black pepper pollination, no new black pepper fruit. So the world's largest growing region of black pepper is Brazil. And Brazil just came off of a horrendous growing season with very little rain. And so their yields on black pepper are very, very low right now. The 2 other main growing regions in the world are going to be Indonesia and Vietnam. But if you look at the size of those 2 countries, they pale in comparison to Brazil. Brazil is just massive country. Yeah. And so black pepper is the key spice in most ingredients, most flavors, most flavor profiles are going to start with black pepper. So it's a key spice, and there's a massive shortage that's going on right now on the black pepper market.
So what do you guys do? You're like literally looking for it and sourcing it for people. They're calling you saying, I need some. And
Yeah. So we try to never be, we call it sole sourced, where we're only relying on one region. So right now we predominantly get black pepper out of both Vietnam and Indonesia. But we're also bringing online new sources from India and Sri Lanka. So we're pivoting. And HQO also has a European division. So we have a team that's headquartered in Amsterdam. So they handle all of our EU customers. And so they have their own supply chain as well. So in Europe, organic is called bio, B-I-O. And it has slightly different requirements than what we would call here in the U.S. as the USDA certified organic. So the levels are a little bit different in terms of pesticides, things like that, allowable limits. So they help us source out of the EU also.
Which one is stricter?
The U.S.
Is it?
Yeah, surprisingly.
It is surprising.
Yeah, you would think Europeans are kind of all
up
little,
on it.
Yeah. But they are allowed, higher allowable limits. I'll give you an example. One time we were looking for, this is actually for a protein bar. We needed a milk powder, a dairy powder. And some of the largest dairies are in Europe. You think about Swiss Alps, and you always see the cows out there. And when we were trying to source out of Europe, we realized that the cows in Europe are actually allowed 1 antibiotic injection in their lifetime to help prevent disease and still be certified organic. Whereas in the United States, it's not allowed at all.
All right.
Yeah.
Good job, U.S. So talk about food that has organic spices in it. So just because there's organic spices in food doesn't mean it's organic.
Yeah, so in order for something to be USDA certified organic, where you see that little green seal, it has to be 95% or more made with organic ingredients.
Got it. 95%.
If it's less than 95%, it can be constituted. You can use the words "made with organics," but it's not USDA certified organic. So if you have, probably the simplest example is if you have a jar of organic black pepper and that's all that's in there, you're going to get that seal, USDA certified organic. If you have let's take a frozen pizza. Now, in order for that frozen pizza, I mean, if you think about it, what is the largest ingredient by weight in a frozen pizza?
By weight, cheese. There's cheese,
Probably
sauce,
not.
and so sauce is what you're thinking?
Probably the dough.
Oh, okay. So I'm an idiot. Dough.
So the dough, the dough is going to be the largest volume by weight. So if you want that pizza to be certified organic, you got to start with the dough. So what does that mean? That dough has to be sourced from organic wheat. So the dough has to be certified organic. The tomato sauce has to be certified organic. So, right, that's going to be sourced from organic tomatoes. If there's pepperoni on there, or certified organic pepperoni, so organic pork, it's got to come from. And then, of course, the spices, right? To my original point, pizza's not going to be good without any spices on it. So let's say maybe you're putting a little garlic, a little dehydrated basil, some oregano, all certified organic.
All right.
So once you have everything certified organic, your pizza now has that logo certified.
So your staff is in Reno.
Yep.
And you're commuting?
Yeah, it's a long commute. So yeah, basically when I first started with the business, I was remote. Then as I kind of took on more of a leadership role, my dad kind of taught me you gotta have FaceTime with the team. You gotta be at the facility. You have to literally smell like spices. So that's when you come up and visit us, everything just permeates your clothes.
All right.
We call it taco because it's just this amalgamation of spices. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So yeah, I started traveling up maybe once a month, and now I'm going on 15 years with the business. I know my dad is eventually wanting to kind of slow down. And so our roles we've kind of swapped, where he was going more aggressively. And so now I'm doing every other week. I'm in Reno. He's there about once a month.
See, this is father and son family business. So there's not other people in this. You told me there's not other people in this space that it's a family business like you guys.
Yeah. HQO, we're a family run business. I'm second generation. So I hope one day that my son gets involved in the business. I've already started talking to him about it.
All right.
But we're the only, there's a few big guys. We call ourselves distributors. We kind of have a similar model in that we go to origin, we bring in product, we quality control it here in the United States, and then we distribute it amongst, our customers. But we're the only ones that are two things that I think are important to mention is that, first off, I make the joke. I was like, we're the only ones that are brown. So why is that important? Because my father was born and raised on an organic farm. He understands what farming is like. He literally did it. I never had that experience, but we are dedicated to the farmers. That's why we do what we do.
You just visited them.
We did.
And so your dad in this kind of transition time is kind of starting to introduce you to these source providers in the various countries.
And that's the beautiful thing. So I think that kind of brings up point number 2 is that we are family run. And so all of our farmers, as very typical in a farming community and farming families, is that you pass on the farm to the next generation. So a lot of the suppliers who we work with are, approaching their 60s and even 70s. And these were, the partners that my father and his partners first kind of linked up with in the beginnings. And so now, as we have meetings with them, we go to trade shows, we go out to dinners, we travel, we go to country. We just got back from China. Those partners are introducing their sons and daughters to myself, right? And saying, okay, we took care of the business. Now here, we'll pass it on to you guys. Don't it up. So it's fun. It's rewarding. But it's also it's certainly nerve wracking, right? It's a lot of pressure. And, my dad and his partners got the business to where it is today. And so I talk with my team and I say, hey, we're creating HQO 2.0. Right. And I think this podcast is a great example of HQO 2.0.
Sure. I do too. Okay. So we're inviting anybody listening today. They could be your number one client, your number one customer, and they're just like, oh, look, Jonathan's doing a show. This is kind of fun. Yeah. To a guy that likes to cook at home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. You have questions about spices. I think a lot of people, now that, we're kind of getting this out there, I think a lot of questions are going to start coming up, and from how do I use spices appropriately to how are these things grown? I don't even know where cinnamon comes from.
This is the kind of stuff that I'm ready to reveal. Just for a little bit of a preview.
Yeah.
We were talking about saffron the other day.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody knows saffron costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it comes from India in some form. And they make a big deal that if it's in a menu. So why is it so expensive?
Yeah. So saffron is so expensive because of the kind of rarity of the product and how much labor goes into it. So it is actually... Do you know what the male part of a plant is called?
The stamen.
So that's saffron. So the
stamen itself is saffron?
The stamen itself. Oh. So the flower, it looks like a lotus. No, not lotus. I'm sorry. Orchid. My bad.
Looks like an orchid.
So saffron comes from a flower. It looks like an orchid. I'd have to ask my dad. I don't know.
I think a lotus is an orchid.
You think so?
Isn't it a lotus orchid?
I don't know. I think you're making that up.
Okay, I made it up.
Yeah. But it's the stamen, the male part of the flower is saffron. So when the flower blooms and the bud opens up, they have these women that are trained with these tweezers that go in and harvest it.
Wow.
So you think about how many of those you would have to harvest to actually get some significant volume, especially trying to do it on a commercial scale. And it's that red color. When it blooms you put it in water to bloom it, you get that kind of golden, yellow, reddish color. Yeah. And it's used in dishes primarily in the Middle East. So some of the larger growing regions are going to be, you were close, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran. They grow a lot of saffron. And so it's not something that HQO deals in. It's too expensive. It's too risky. But there is something called the poor man's saffron.
And it is?
Turmeric.
So what's the difference between turmeric and saffron, and what does it taste like?
Nothing, in my opinion. Saffron
Really?
has no flavor. I've always used it. Probably the classic example is like a Spanish paella, right? Where they add it in and it colors that rice and you get this vibrant yellow golden color. In Indian cooking, when I go home, and my folks will make some sort of rice dish, they'll have saffron, they'll bloom it in water, and they'll kind of streak it almost in the rice. They'll layer it in the rice dishes. So the whole rice is not yellow, but you have this kind of striation of this yellow reddish color throughout the rice. So it looks pretty.
Can turmeric do the same thing?
It's harder to control because, usually you get turmeric as a powder, and then if you add it to rice, it's going to kind of turn the whole thing yellow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was talking to my grandma one day trying to get some, authentic Indian recipes. And she was saying, just use fake saffron. I was like, what's fake saffron? And that's where I learned it's turmeric.
Got it.
So
See, you learn it right here.
yeah, right here. You heard it first.
Are there other spices that aren't primarily for taste, but for color like that?
Probably the biggest one that's used for color is paprika.
Yeah, but it has a taste,
A
kind
little bit of
smoky, and I know
taste.
there's smoked paprika.
There's smoked
Clearly,
paprika.
that
There's
tastes-
sweet paprika. Do you know what paprika is?
No idea.
It's not a bell pepper, but to try to immediately give you a point of reference, it's like a bell pepper. It's a chili. It's a large chili, a large red chili
Okay.
that is grown, dehydrated, and ground into a powder. That's what paprika is.
You've heard, and onto my deviled eggs.
Onto your
That's
deviled
about
eggs.
right, deviled
Yeah.
eggs, or
Yeah.
for some color. That's all I hear.
Color.
That all
Well,
the
that's
time
why,
is
you know,
needed for
it's
some
color. So because it is a chili, like it is not a bell pepper, don't come at me in the comments. It is a chili, and so it's similar to a bell pepper. It's a little sweet. So you have Hungarian sweet paprika is probably the most common label claim that you see. You know where the world's largest paprika growing region is? China.
Oh, really? And
I'm telling you, these Chinese, they know how to grow.
they know how to grow.
Yeah.
And do you get yours mostly from China right now?
We do both. So we have a Chinese version, which is great, beautiful colored product. But we do have some customers that, request for non-Chinese materials for a variety of reasons. And so we also get it from Spain. So that's our non-Chinese option.
So where can they find us? They can find us wherever podcasts are heard.
Wherever podcasts are
That includes
heard.
Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube. We're going to be blowing up socials under
OG Spice Guy.
right. So OG Spice Guy is pretty much. I think we have that handle wherever we need it.
I think so. We're OG Spice Guy, right?
Yeah, I
think
hope so.
OG Spice Guy.
I hope so. And this is going to be our podcast, our show.
Yeah.
So it's both. There's people that are just listening to us.
Sure.
And they know you're brown.
Yeah.
And they could probably guess then that I'm not, which means I'm white. But then there's people that I'm encouraging people to watch it. Watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, we put the cameras here for a reason. We got a good little in-house studio here.
Yeah.
You got a haircut.
You got a haircut, a shaved.
You shaved. I did not shave or get a haircut.
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay. I'm supposed to be like
You're
gritty.
supporting.
I'm the supporting role.
Yeah.
I'm the producer. I think we're gonna have fun.
That's my whole goal.
Right?
Is because one of my favorite quotes is life is too important to be taken seriously. So if we can't have fun on this, then
And why are we doing it?
Why are we doing it?
All right, we're gonna introduce you to some of the characters around here. Noelle's here today.
Yeah.
Sophia, Michelle, Drew, Max, me. We have a whole team here.
Whole team.
First one. We
Putting
just
this
wanted to do.
together.
Thanks everybody for this.
And if you own or work for a food or beverage, company, hit us up. I'd love to talk to you. Love to interview. Love to see how we can add value, either publicly or a lot of our customers want to remain confidential as well, which we totally respect. But yeah, I'm here to add value. And I'm trying to help differentiate high quality organics in a heavily commoditized space. And I think we have a lot to offer from, hey, it's kind of fun to see a father and son working together to, we have some really unique value add advantages with our supply chain that we can pass on to our customers. So
Awesome. So stick around, come back for episode 2.
yeah, let's do it. Thanks, man.
The OG Spice Guy Show is recorded and produced by Hey Babe Media in South Pasadena, California, in association with HQ Organics, America's leading provider of organic spices. Today's episode was produced by Rod Clyde, associate producer Max Flora. It was engineered and edited by Drew Unser. The assistant editor is Andrew Weinstock, set design by Shen Heckel, web and SEO by Rebecca McDonald, and graphics by Michelle Esteva. Social media services are provided by Noelle Mercer and Sophia Sherman of Soel Social. You can DM and follow us on all platforms and socials at OG Spice Guy.